This week, we're topping off our garden beds with fresh soil to get ready for our first round of plants. But first, garden cleanup day. You know, you think this might be a day that I would dread, but honestly, nothing is better than coming outside on a 50-degree day in the middle of winter, knowing that what we're gonna do today is gonna set us up for success this season. It's cleanup time. Get some carrots out of here. Look at these. Look how beautiful these fall carrots are. So good. Dirt and all, baby. Our mission today is to make some progress on this scoreboard. We've been diligently collecting eggs. We've been starting a ton of plants. I've been doing the best that I can to make some progress on the greenhouse. So I'm really struggling to make some big progress. And with our first planting date of February 20th coming and passing us by, we need to get these garden beds ready. You want to find a carrot? Come on, come over here. Look, right here. Get this one. Get it right here. Pull. Pull, 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 pull. Pull, pull, pull. Whoa. Is it yummy? Yeah. Nothing better. I'm sure there are plenty of carrots in here.
Yeah, because it's very warm out.
Well, we planted these carrots last fall and now they grew over the winter. And now look at them. They're beautiful. They're ready. So you can see that weeds have completely taken over this garden bed, but the carrots are ready. So we could just rip them all out, do this one big harvest, and we'll show you how to preserve them in the refrigerator so they last a really long time. Oh, look at these mason bees. They're already out doing their pollination thing. Actually, those might be honeybees. They are honeybees. They're coming out and they're getting the first pollen of the season. That's how you know it's warm outside.
So they're coming out to collect our pollen.
That's right. They're hungry.
That way they can make honey. That way they can time our own.
That's right. That right there is exactly one of the reasons why you should wait as long as possible to get your garden beds ready for the season. Because pollinators are going to eventually find your garden essential. And if we actually remove these plants at the end of winter, don't let them overwinter, the pollinators aren't going to have anything to come to once the weather gets warm. Whenever I am cleaning out my garden bed, I do the best that I can to leave all of the roots in the ground because we want to do our best to not disturb the soil. We want to keep the soil intact because the plants and the microbes have worked so hard to build connections between one another, and that's what creates healthy soil and in turn creates healthy plants. So try to minimize the amount of tilling and upturning and all that you're doing. We're going to remove all of this stuff out of here. Obviously, pick our carrots out of the ground, and then we're going to add a fresh layer of soil on top. Wow! Look at these. They're beautiful.
Look at this one. It's so cute. It's so cute.
Wow! Look at these.
Ooh, look at this one.
These are really nice, huh?
Potato carrot. Here's a whole bunch. Wow.
One thing that we're keeping track of this year, over the course of the whole year, is weighing all of the weights of our vegetables so we can see how much we're actually growing. I know it's a little chaos, just work with me. So in this bed, we had two types of carrots, Shin-Kurta and Candy F1. And the Shin-Kurta are gorgeous. These carrots are nice and big and beautiful, perfect for just snacking on. And these Candy F1s, I think partially because I didn't thin them out very well, are much smaller, which are going to be great for like baking and cooking. Overall, a pretty good haul from only a 2-foot by 6-foot raised bed. We had 2 rows And these have grown over the winter. Over the winter, we did nothing. We planted them in the fall, they grew all winter, and now we're getting this amazing harvest in the spring. And as they're growing, they're also benefiting the soil. So rather than the soil being barren, this soil continued to work. The microbes were active, and this is just going to make our soil healthier overall. Look how nice and damp and dark and rich this soil is. This is exactly what we want from the garden. Feeling good about this year. I feel like it's going to be a great one.
Yeah.
Some monster sized carrots. And this is what happens when you have nice, deep, loose soil. Carrots love it. So whenever someone tells you to put leaves and sticks and twigs in the bottom of your raised beds, unless it's a 30-inch deep raised bed, don't do it.
Daddy, move. Go.
Let's get this out of here. And this is going to go right into our compost bin. So I don't really mind if we're digging some things out and the soil comes along with it, because eventually it's going to wind up right back into the garden. The only thing that we want to be careful of is making sure that we're putting aside any prolific weeds like Bermuda grass or anything that is diseased. We want to get that off of the property, because the last thing that you want is to reintroduce that back into the soil. So it's 10:30 at night, and I totally forgot that I left the carrots out here. Luckily, it's still kind of cold out, but it's gonna freeze tonight, so I can't leave them out here, otherwise they're gonna be bad tomorrow. So I got a plastic bag. I'm gonna put them in here, put them in the fridge. We'll weigh them tomorrow. This is exactly how I store them, just in a sealed plastic bag. Didn't clean off the dirt or anything. This is how they store for a really long time. So we're gonna put this on here. 7 pounds, 2.39 ounces. 7 pounds, 2.39 ounces. All right, let's see what the other bag weighs. All right, this bag is not a lot smaller, but it's definitely smaller. I think this one's probably about like, I don't know, 4 or 5 pounds. Oh man, on the money. 4 pounds, 12 point, we'll say 7 ounces. So we basically got 12 pounds of carrots from 2 garden beds that are less than 25 square feet total, doing nothing over the winter. I'd say that's a win. Now that the raised beds are generally cleaned out, there are a couple more things that I want to do before I actually add soil on top. We want to add more soil for a couple reasons. One, because the soil level has dropped in our raised beds from year to year, but two, to add more nutrition and life into our garden beds. And there's one problem that I commonly see gardeners do that can prevent all of the nutrition that we're adding to our gardens going to their plants. I want to do the best that I can to remove any of this excess mulch or leaves or any decaying material. Because if I add some soil covering it, what's going to happen is all of the nutrition, especially nitrogen, is going to be used to break down this carbon. If you're familiar with composting at all, that's exactly what happens in the compost bin. So I don't want composting to occur in my garden bed, because it robs my soil of nitrogen and it holds on to it until all of this stuff is broken down, which means that my plants won't have access to it. So try to do your best to get rid of as much of this stuff as you possibly can. I like to add fertilizer before I add any of the new soil, because then that fertilizer is going to get incorporated where the plant's roots are, which is where all of that nutrient uptake is going to happen. But this time around, the soil came before the fertilizer. And I also have something really exciting that I've been working on that is supposed to arrive in just a couple of days. So we've got the soil. I'm gonna get it down in the ground, and then we're gonna add the fertilizer later on. Every chance that I get, I like to order my materials in bulk. And what I've got here is a mixture of topsoil and compost. What I'm gonna do is mix it with some perlite so that way it creates a nice, light, fluffy mixture that my plants are going to love. So I'll admit, this year I'm doing something a little bit different than I normally would. My soil composition usually consists of compost, peat moss, and perlite. But one thing that I'm trying to preach here is being a steward of the environment. And I think a lot of us know that peat moss ain't so great. However, I am an advocate of peat moss in horticultural purposes. It's amazing. I've been using it in my garden for the last 8 years, but I understand why people don't want me using it in my garden. So I decided to give it a try. I'm going to be using compost, topsoil, and perlite. That's it for this year, and we're going to see how things go. And I'll admit, I do play the game of, hey, I'm being more sustainable and environmentally friendly by growing a lot of my own produce, which is 100% true. But it still takes a lot of resources and releases a lot of carbon during the process of harvesting and manufacturing peat moss. So if you do choose to continue to use peat moss in your own garden, just make sure you're getting it from a source and a company that is reputable and sustainable. And luckily, a lot of it is significantly more regulated these days. And that means you're also going to be paying a lot more for it. So luckily, I don't have to do much work with this compost and topsoil. I could just throw this on there. It's already mixed up and it looks really good. My goal is for the overall consistency to be like a cookies and cream or chocolate chip cookie dough, whatever your preference is. Maybe a mint chocolate chip. You want to see those chunks of perlite throughout the ice cream. And I roughly want it to make up about 10% of the mix. I know you could do the math if you really wanted to. For example, if you had a 5-gallon bucket, you could do 9 buckets of compost and topsoil and 1 bucket of perlite, and that 1 bucket would equal 10%. So if you really want to get specific, that's a really easy way to do it. Or 9 wheelbarrows full to 1 wheelbarrow full of perlite, and you got 10%. Whatever your measuring cup is, just do 9 and 1. So I actually bought this big bag online, and I'll put a link down in the description for you. But I'm just gonna dump this out. That's probably pretty good, actually. Notice how dusty it is too, so try not to breathe it in or wear a mask. I probably should be. Cover my face at least. You're gonna notice that this perlite is gonna start to get incorporated into this soil pretty quickly. So a lot at the beginning might not turn into very much. Oh, look at that. Look how beautiful that is already. Yeah, see this right here. That's the consistency I'm looking for. Most of the raised beds are ready for plants. And the last thing that we need is the fertilizer. So I'm really excited to mark some things off on this scoreboard. But don't get me wrong, there is still plenty to do. We've got to fix these raised beds for our larger plants like squash and tomatoes. I've got to get the greenhouse done so that way I can actually start transitioning my plants to outdoors. So these are the things that I'm definitely going to be working on next, because very, very soon, we're actually going to be flipping that switch and get the season going.